Well, hello. Welcome back to the next episode of What's Inside My Very Bald Head. Um, I'm playing a game against a guy who is presently higher rated than me, 2255. So this is looking like an exciting scenario, and so I'm headed for my favorite King's Indian defense, which is an opening that you have to treat very carefully when you play, because in its appearance it's actually very passive. And so unless you have the right mindset behind it, which is very aggressive and very much into the desire to want to break out, yeah, it's something that I would not advise beginners to actually play. But yeah, King's Indian is an epically fun opening. It's just, as I said, you need to know what you're doing there in order to feel safe. Now, in this variation, I conveniently have no idea what I'm doing because I totally forgot what theory recommended in these variations, so I'm a little bit playing it by the ear. I feel like I haven't done anything super crazy yet that would indicate that things are going not my way. Is he actually threatening to take this? e5 is interesting. It makes the pawn structure rigid, and it makes my bishop on g7 really bad, but at the same time it fixes the e4 pawn. So that's a tempting option. Question number 2 is that after knight takes, I will have queen b6, followed by bishop e3, knight g4. Tactics. Queen takes, bishop takes d4, bishop takes, queen takes, check, winning the d3 bishop. So it seems that presently I actually don't have to worry about this. The bigger problem is that how will I find a useful move? Because I don't really want to put the bishop here, because I was thinking about regrouping the knight, which by the way wants to make me go there right away now. Now g4 is an interesting concept, trying to jump in here and exploit the two bishops. Actually, yeah, these are my two preferences now. I either want to go here and try to jump in here, which obviously risks eventually the loss of that pawn because it's way into the enemy territory, but at the same time that would give me this epically awesome bishop, or I just play cruisy and cash and regroup this knight here, which seems to be a mighty good square for it. Anyway, I'm torn. I don't know. I really don't know. Okay, I don't know. I'm going to chicken out, but somehow this feels fundamentally more sound. I actually thought he would play this. Okay. I would like to just ignore it because now he's spending time in with not developing, and if he were to take here, I would take back. If he were to take here, which I think he will, I'll take back. And now my king side has been weakened, but my central presence is becoming a lot more obvious. Yeah, it can turn into some quite wild scenarios rather quickly, so I have to tread here carefully. But in general, I think that my position is fine. The most important feature of the position at the moment is the fact that this bishop is useless, and I think that e5 is a tad bit too risky, because even though after takes, they would destroy the major lines of defense around my king, but at the same time they would have to shred away too much from the center. In fact, now that I'm looking at it, b4 looks like a decent move to hit this knight before I get around doing this. Maybe knight g3 is good too. But again, the knight on g3 looks a bit funny because my pawn actually cancels out all those squares. So why wouldn't he go to knight f4? That looks far better. Yeah, I don't even know why I said what I said. No, b4, fair enough. I don't think I have got anything better than to take this thing here. So I shall. I'm tempted to play bishop e5. And d5. So the problem with e5 is that it renders this bishop into complete stupidity, but at the same time it gives this bishop a lot of scope for potential damage. So now bishop here, queen here is the plan to massage this weak spot here, and on occasion I may be able to swing around and target this. But if you ask me now if I was happy with my choice about playing knight d7 here instead of knight g4, I wouldn't be sure. So queen g3 looked legit to me in that position. I think this is a bit sus because, yeah, I would definitely not have played this, because the point is that after, for example, rook here and queen here, you would want to have the queen to come across to attack me on the king side, but the bishop is actually directly blocking the g file. So I don't know, but maybe if I come here he has got c5, but then again that further weakens a lot of things on the king side, so on the queen side, so I'm not sure. If bishop f6, then he is swapping the wrong type of bishop, so I will just ignore that. Rook c8, and he's falling apart on c4. Yeah, I'm beginning to like my position more and more as we are progressing. I think that he misplayed this part of the game from here on really badly. Knight f4 in my mind was a no-brainer to put pressure here and here before I finish development. And in this position I definitely would have favored either bishop d2 or even a regroup of the knight, but I'm not sure how I could have done that. So yeah, I would have gone bishop d2 here because bishop g5 just felt counterintuitive. So now he had to waste a move in going there, and now the next stage of my build-up is whether I want to come back here and keep on hitting this, or I even might want to play a preparatory move b6 to deny c5, or right away into the action with queen c6. No, I don't quite like b6 actually, because I don't see how he can hang on to this very weak c4 pawn. The knight being 2 diagonal squares away from it, it takes 3 moves to defend this pawn, and it's just not possible. And he seems to be very oblivious to this, by the way, so don't think he saw this. Queen c6 may have been even stronger, I don't know. And now he's just dead. It's 2 connected pass pawns in the center in his face. No hopes of survival. Yeah, that's cute, but it doesn't do anything. Okay, so I'm just going in. I just need to check that this didn't work, but I can take with the rook. So it's all good. Rook f1 is always met by queen d7, where I still control the same weak white squares. And once again, this game is really the tragedy of this knight from this point on, because it's just such a sad observer of what's happening, and it has got no hopes of returning the fray in any shape or form at all. Yeah, these are, yeah, we're wasting time now basically, but yeah, normally one doesn't resign a position like that. Now it's going to attack my pawn here. I'm going to guard it, and then perhaps that's when we are going to call it quits. No, that's actually semi-reasonable, because on bishop c4 he has a check here, which is a tiny bit annoying. And if d3, then knight can take, and I still don't have bishop c4 for said reasons. So I might just be annoying and put some extra pressure on him by pushing that pawn 1 square closer to the baseline. Okay, I'm thinking about coming here now. I don't really see anything wrong with this move. Yep, let's do that. The idea is that now I can play d3 because it's supported by the rook, so knight takes, rook takes works. I expect him to play queen a5 to target the rook, or rather I should say to prevent d3, and at the same time hit the pawn on e5. Against that, I'm planning queen c7, which covers everything, and then he's going to jump back here, and then I will have to think about how to guard my bishop, which is most likely going to be rook c6 back. So we are following my script insofar. Not anymore. I actually did not see this threat. It might be well worth investigating it if it really is a threat, by the way, because after checking here, I can't really see any further attacking possibilities for white, but that said, I hate to give unnecessary counterplay like that to my opponent, and bishop f7 seems to solve these problems rather well. So yeah, I'm quite happy because now I don't see what he can do against this that is any value. Queen b5 I can push, and if knight takes, rook takes, queen takes, I get a new queen, and that basically lands me in a piece up position for no counterplay whatsoever. So we are close to resignation, but again the game was a little bit shaky. A little bit shaky. Maybe he's pondering about something, I don't know. I really don't know what he's trying to do or what he's hoping to play for. RomanSVR. No further information. So yeah, we shall see. We shall see. But it's looking like we scored another victory. Pawn h4. Holy goalie. That is what I call desperation. So d3 h5. Pawn takes. Rook f5. What the heck? I don't know. Alright, let's see. Let's see what I'm missing, boys and girls, and everybody else. No, rook f2. Now queen c5 is winning on the spot already, for the record. Because after queen takes, rook takes, knight d3, I can queen and then take with the rook. And since I can't be bothered calculating anything else, I'm gonna do it. Ta-da! Actually, he can take here right away. I can't take because my queen is hanging, but after queen takes here, we are essentially transposing into the same variation. And please note that none of these moves that he just played work because the rook is hanging down here. And actually I can check down the knight too. So that's a doubly painful story for him. And I can give a check here too, but I prefer this checky. Actually, if I really want to be cruel, and I do, then I go for this check now, because if king up here, then bishop check is going to hurt. And if king there, then I have got now simply d2. And if queen takes, queen f6, and it's GG. Actually, king here would have won probably even more so, but yeah. All right, let's do a rematch just because, yeah, I like to be nice. Oh no, it was a casual game. Dagnamit. Oh well. We'll be fine with cash. We are a little bit cash too, aren't we? Cash. Epic Queen. High five. I will analyze it in the end. Wow, this seems to be recurring a lot since my lesson with Dominic, so I'm really interested in where this is going to take us. And it really does look like my game against Yatsovn, the dude from chess.com. Identical scenario so far. Knight d5 potentially is an annoying move when my bishop is not on this diagonal anymore. Okay, d5 is the big question, whether I have d5 now or not. So let's calculate. Knight takes... that's already a bit disturbing. Okay, here is what I would like to say and do. Rook e8 is a total waste of space. So why don't I just play a developing move that otherwise fits into the structure and see what he's going to do with himself. And my plan normally in this position is to play a3, drop the bishop back, queen up, rook here, and then bishop back here. a3 is a super useful move in this kind of structure because it allows you to retreat with the bishop. It denies this very commonplace plan of blocking the d4 pawn. And so in general, it fits in really well with the structure. And bishop d7 is another horrendously passive move. So now I'm just going to carry on with what I wanted to do. And do this regroup that eventually is going to threaten with mate. This is definitely not a good way to play chess. It is way too passive. So see, if I hadn't played a3, now I wouldn't have had a square to go back to for my bishop on c4. Also, the other problem with knight a5 is that it allows knight e5, the general rule of mine. When your opponent leaves the center, you occupy the center. So that's also on the cards. Now, knight on e5 is normally very effective, especially if the rook has moved away from f8, because then we've got lots of tricks here. But that doesn't apply now because the bishop stands on d7, and whilst it's a super duper passive spot, at least it fulfills some defending duties. But basically, this is a dream scenario when you want to play with an isolated queen pawn. The isolated queen pawn is meant to be blocked or blockaded, as per Nimzowitsch. It's not. Black is supposed to swap off pieces so that he can stir towards a favorable endgame. None of that happened. White is meant to build up an initiative and enjoy his central presence, and that is what's been happening. Now, take followed by d5 would already be very good, but because if I told you that I prefer to keep all the pieces on the board, I avoid even that swap. And I just keep on building my position up. And once again, yet another knight left the center, so I can't wait to strike there too. His position is actually falling apart in a spectacular fashion without him even making any obvious mistakes. These are just these little meaningless moves like that one and that one was that causes quite a bit of trouble for black at the moment. Poor guys, he fell apart. Okay, just blundered a piece. It's a pity because it would have been interesting. Actually, I will offer him a take back. Yeah, okay, let's do something more meaningful because, yeah, I wanted to... CN. I don't speak that lingo, buddy. Oh, thank you, you're welcome. I'm a gentleman. Yeah, I want to finish this game in a way that will hopefully teach us something more about this structure. I would like to also draw your attention to the fact, and I'm not saying what an awesome dude I am, that if you look at my army, it is ridiculously nicely developed, and it's a very harmonious setup that I have here. So chances that I'm going to be able to do major damage is very high. Okay, so my pieces cooperate beautifully. Everything is very logically developed so that I have got an absolute domination on these squares. Every single piece on the board, if you look at it one by one, covers one square either directly or indirectly in the center. Hardly ever do you get such a powerful setup where you can do that. Oh, that may have been actually a junky move. Okay, my plan was to take here and then he can't take because of mate, but I disregarded the fact that here after queen takes b2, knight takes here, he has got rook takes c3, and that would have been a tad bit ugly for me. Now instead he played bishop c6 and almost again for the second time lost a piece here. I'm looking at some tactical opportunities here, and I think I've found one. So what I'm planning to do after knight b3 is to play d5, ed, knight d, bishop d, queen d, and then the knight is hanging here as well as the f7 pawn. So what I'm looking at now is that this piece is obviously very sadly cut away from the rest of its army, and so I would like to hunt it down. In fact, yeah, d5 is not really that great, I just noticed now, because any knight move would actually win this piece here, or close to that. Actually, even bishop a2. Yeah, why don't we do bishop a2? They can't defend it. So once again, he caused such a traffic jam by misplacing now the bishop 2 that after b4 knight here, if I play bishop a2, he just can't do a thing. G to the G. GG. Well, so I didn't even have a chance to either crack him on the king side or in the center, because, yeah, he just lost the game. Or without, yeah, actually fighting for it, so to speak. He can't even sack that knight in decent circumstances, because that's the best way for him to sack it, which actually would just open up the d5 for my rook, and yeah, it's just no go. He's dead. He can take queen takes, rook takes, and then bishop takes down here, opening up the c file onto my knight, but again, that's his most decent piece, so I wouldn't even mind that one, even if it meant that after that he would have 2 pawns for the piece. That's still nowhere near good enough. And as per very often it is the case, further self damage is inflicted. So takes, he's gonna take with the queen, hanging my knight here, and I'm just going to play knight e4, and this knight still has nowhere to go, except that I'm being a moron and I blundered this. Wow! Ridiculous. I mean, look at this. Knight c1. That's why you always have to be alert to tactics. It is such a beautiful defense. And after rook takes, queen takes rook, and I can't retake again because the other rook comes down and I lose an exchange. So what would have been the correct move then? Maybe I played a bit too quick here because I got carried away. Yeah, I suppose maybe I just needed to play something like knight g6. Or even knight c4. Oh my god, just attacking the queen and then taking the knight. Yeah, this is not good chess, guys. Don't do this at home like this. This is actually quite embarrassing. Okay, so now I'm just going to be content with winning the pawn. It's good enough for my soul now, given that I completely stuffed up the game. Yeah. Okay, so now d5 is threatening, as well as just simply winning the pawn on e6. I'm already a pawn to the good. Yeah, you can figure out what's gonna happen. But yeah, that was sad. It's a beautiful motif though, and so rare. I mean, how often do you get to fork your opponent's queen and bishop on their opponent, on your opponent's back rank. Wow, chess is beautiful. So isn't d5 winning now like crazy? I don't even want to allow queen c3, to be honest. Yep. Okay, so I was thinking about moves like h4 to open up my back rank so that we can pull the sting out of this queen c3, which basically threatens with nothing else but take and then back rank check. But that actually annoys my d5 plans, because after queen c3 take, rook takes, rook check, I have to drop back with the rook, and after the swap he can retake on e6, except the fact that I then can pin it back. Haha. Smart. Be smart, folks. So one more time. Queen c3, I take. They take, I take. Check, rook back, forces rook swap, bishop takes. Rook e6 loses to bishop b3 right away. Knight e6, bishop b3, and black can never ever escape that pin. The game is mine. Booyah! Who is the best calculator? Not me. The person who wouldn't have fallen for knight c1 has the right to claim to be a better calculator immediately than me. But I'm glad I spotted this trick that after rook 1 bishop takes I can go back to b3 and kill on the diagonal. So I reckon he will go there. Nope. If I was black I wouldn't take this now. And I would actually encourage you to agree with that thought, because after knight e6 bishop b3, black is never ever going to be able to move the rook and the king away from there, which means that essentially I'm going to be 2 pieces up for nothing. But then again, of course, not taking the pawn here is unbearable in the long run, but if they take it, then the long run becomes a short run. Yep. So what's gonna happen now is that I'm gonna play f4, which is threatening already to win the game on the spot with f5. Here I'll have to play g6. I drop back here, and now he can't stop eventually this from happening. Please know that everything I do that is part of my plan, my eventual plan is to have a pawn on f5. So in order to do that I needed to play g4. He should have played in this position h5 to prevent g4, against which I would have needed to play g3, then h3, then g4, and then f5, which was a very slow but totally unstoppable threat. Now after g4, he's going to resign the game, because he will see that after f5 there is no way to save the piece. Excuse me. Yep, that's gonna be GG here. It's a very powerful picture about the strength of a pin, and because of his very content on... Oh yeah, it's actually quite clever. He wanted to play king f6. So, but because I was about to be a nasty pasty and put these pawns on white before I do the coup de grace, the finish off. But yeah, there is no need to be cute here for me. Do I take with bishop or pawn? They are both 100% totally winning. I will go with this. And that, I'm pretty sure he didn't see that check, otherwise he wouldn't have fallen for it. Another check. Now I'm actually quite keen on mating him. Bishop here. Oh, bishop here. I'll go with that. Would have been nice to do something like bishop here, rook somewhere, and then bishop check followed by bishop mate here, but he wouldn't have fallen for that. So these are the two games, guys. I don't really see the point of analyzing it much, because I have analyzed both of them quite in depth as I played through. I just want to point out one thing probably about this one, because that one was a little bit shakier. I reckon knight g4 is probably better here, and then jump in and exploit the huge diagonal of the bishop. And here, after knight f4, it would still have been quite a tough game for me to win. So after something like, I don't even know, maybe queen f6 is better, just to make sure that e5 doesn't hit me with the tempo. He still has got some sort of play here. I still prefer to be black, but this may have been better than what he did. And yeah, after bishop g5, bishop e6, strategically speaking, this game was over because he fell apart on c4. And the white game was rather easy, but still I believe it was very instructive in how to coordinate and develop pieces in the isolated queen pawn pawn structure that we thoroughly discussed already in the past 2 lessons with Dominic, that you can also see on this channel if you go back and check out my last 2 videos in the lessons with me section or whatever. Alrighty folks, thanks a lot for tuning in. I hope that you found this instructive. I'm getting lots of positive feedback. I'm getting a lot of inquiries for coaching, and I do apologize guys, but my full-time job is about to kick in 3 weeks. Highly unlikely that I will be able to take more of you on board for the time being. That said, please send inquiries, because I would like to make sure that I attend to your needs, especially if you just want a one-off or whatever. So I'm not discouraging you, I'm just telling you that things are getting rather tight at the moment. But please, please, please keep on watching the videos, keep on educating yourself for chess. And if you have anybody else who's playing chess, please feel free to advertise my hopefully awesome services. So thanks all for tuning in, and I will be back with more soon. Bye.